Calling the Charlotte Select Board meeting, calling it to order, Monday, October 23rd, 6 o'clock. The first item on the agenda is to discuss the vacancy at the senior center in the form of looking at an old job description, a new job description, and then as we progress there, I would expect there could be a change through the Palmer analysis. So to set the stage, we have a vacancy effective now, and Mary was an activities director, which didn't encompass the full responsibilities as an employee, like a library director or the rec director. So I understand it's your request that we have a senior center director. So that's going to be a change in the job description and how you advertise it. So you want to discuss why the change and see if any of the board members have questions as you talk to us.
One of the things we should say at the outset is that the activities director was there for 14 years, and during that time, the center moved from a really kind of fledgling entity to one that serves roughly 400 people a week, providing classes and so forth. And during that time, the town changed, as well as the senior center. The town at that point, I believe, only had maybe 3 people occupying town hall, and now we have more. We have more boards and commissions. We didn't have the Recreation Commission as it's set up, and some others. There are more requirements, documentation, and policies that have crept in. Some created by the town, some created by the state, some pushed on all of us by government regulations, the League of Cities and Towns Insurance, and so on. The activities director, in addition to the duties that were in her job description, gradually took on administrative responsibilities that really weren't ever in the job description. I think you would find that many people, I'm not sure I should say most people, but many people assumed that Mary Recchia was the director of the senior center. You came in there and she was the one you talked to about what was going on. There was nothing there about responsibility for the facility, and gradually there are things that come into play there. There's the fire alarm inspection, the fire extinguishers, the state inspects the kitchen, somebody has to schedule the changeover on the air conditioning and its cleaning, and the furnace, and the kitchen sump pump, a lot of stuff. The board of directors has tried to take responsibility for that, but many of those things actually devolve to the person who's on the scene. And if there's a leak, well, then somebody there takes care of it. A major change is that about 3 years ago, it was decided to employ a volunteer director. We now have a second individual in the position, and it's pretty clear that the fact that they work one without supervision over the other is not an effective or reasonable way for it to work.
Could you say that over again? Could you say that last statement again?
We now have two employees, volunteer director and an activities director, each responsible to the Friends of the Senior Center Board.
Can I just interject? I think
It is not,
volunteer coordinator.
Hold on,
The one title is volunteer coordinator,
right,
not volunteer director.
yes,
Just-
volunteer coordinator.
yeah, the volunteer coordinator. And the activities director, we think that the activities director position should move to being the director of the senior center and have supervisory responsibility over the volunteer director. The volunteer director is administering, in recruiting and training and running 125 different people. And having them independent of one another has not been the right way to do it. Lastly, the activities director has taken on more financial responsibility and ought to have more of it in the job description. The activities director who's collecting about $24,000 of revenue a year, has been taking care of not only scheduling those courses, but collecting the money alone, and until recently was solely responsible for reporting that and getting it to the town hall. I did that job for the first 13 years, and the activities director has been doing it for the last couple of years, and it's not really in the job description. So we're getting the job description up to date. We wanted to do a little more responsibility, to have more overall responsibility of the facility and the other employee. So that's kind of the story of it.
So no change in the amount of hours, no change in the number of employees?
The activities director is currently in it, I think, 28 hours nominally. We have written this description for 30 to 35 hours. I think that there's going to be a little more in it, and I think as we get a new person who's replacing someone who's been there for 14 years, I think he or she is going to have a hard time doing it in the same number of hours.
So anybody have any questions from the board on the principle of what's happening?
Is it safe to say that, well, a couple of questions. Of the 400 people that you mentioned a week, how many of those are, any idea how many are Charlotte residents and how many aren't?
Yeah, roughly, depending on the activity, roughly half and half. That's a rule of thumb. It's a lot of people from Shelburne who don't have a senior center there, many from Heinsberg, but you go beyond that, we have them from Williston, Milton, Virginia, Middlebury, Weybridge, you name it, Richmond, about half are Charlotte.
So as the senior center has grown, a fair amount of the activity comes from people that are out of town.
That's correct. And without them, we would probably not be able to run a number of the activities because there just wouldn't be enough people to carry the revenue. I mean, to provide the revenue to carry the cost, is the way I should have put it.
I think that participation speaks to the quality of what's offered there. If you start looking at the classes and look around to see what else is available in other centers. it's quite different.
You can imagine where I'm going, as
I know where
as
you're
the,
going.
as the
Yeah.
cost to manage all of this gets more expensive, which an increase in hours and more than likely an increase in a job description is gonna cost only the people in the town of Charlotte more money.
Well, I want to add something to that. As you know, the Friends of the Charlotte Senior, which administers the building and watches over these things, runs an annual fundraising campaign. And I can tell you, of running the numbers for 15 years, more than half comes from people not in Charlotte. And that money is what has enabled the senior center to have things that are not in the town budget that are provided by the Friends Association, the most notable one being the building addition, which was done completely with the money that had been raised and invested by the Friends organization. But there are a number of smaller things that are done. The Friends organization has done just about all of the things on the outside, all of the landscaping, planting, what have you, has been done with the money that's raised out of not in the town budget. Smaller things like the flowers every week in the tables and in the front hall, which are the kinds of things that other people who come here say, you know, your place is different. You come into it and it is more homey, more friendly. Now, granted, a lot of that was Mary Recchia, but some of it also is the style in which it's run and the fact that the place is clean, it's tidy. So that's a long answer to your question. I know where you're headed and I understand. Yeah,
Yeah, we're all taxpayers.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
You'll remember them.
not, as I said with the library board, it's not that I necessarily disagree with any of this stuff, but as an elected official, I have to be the devil's advocate,
Of course.
because I hear the devil on occasion.
Well, I have prepared this kind of answer for town meeting a few times, and fortunately, the last few years, the question hasn't been asked. Yeah.
Are they long-standing friends of the senior center? We have that for a long time to come. That sort of,
Oh, you mean, has it been in existence?
it's
for a
been
long
in
time?
existence for a long time.
Right.
Do you see it continuing for a long time, or is that hard to say?
Seems
Or
to be continuing pretty solidly
Yeah.
to date. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think you
Yeah.
can foresee the future, but
I don't know, but it's just,
Well, the original charter for Walter Irish was not limited to Charlotte. It was the
That's correct.
senior center for those.
He specifically did not do that, yeah. We probably aren't bound by exactly what he put in it, but many of the things we have, he wanted to be sure that it served food. And he did not restrict it to Charlotte residents, which were two things that were prominent either in or not in his will. Yeah.
so in his will covered the basic cost of building the building.
So the current, what's their title? Volunteer coordinator is anticipating a new boss, so to speak?
Well,
Looking
Yes.
forward to it?
Yes,
I think that she has been, what's the right word? Restless, inhibited, constrained a little because Mary Recchia, who'd been there for all these years and who was so well-known and liked, and people went to her for things, put her in a position of awkwardness, which I think she's ready to move into a role more, with more force behind her in it. Yeah, yeah. I think it's going to be a very good move in that respect. I think she will appreciate it.
Well, I think the fact that there wasn't a solid line of supervision over even the previous, before Peggy, I mean, that sort of didn't work after a while.
No, it's
And-
not the right model.
Right, and I think you gotta have a supervisor and there's a subordinate, then there's an understanding what's expected, you can talk back and forth, and I think it's a better model, as you're
Yeah, I
saying,
think it's a cooperative model that,
you know.
you know.
So you also
Looks at the
need to
whole thing.
revise that job description.
I don't think so.
Maybe somewhat, but not, I
Well,
don't know majorly.
I suspect there gotta be some words at some point that spell out the supervisor relationship.
Yeah.
Both of them,
Because it
I
specifically
mean,
says
everybody
that-
theoretically works for you people directly. The legal supervisor is Dean.
But I didn't think that an administrator supervised a director. We talked about that with the recreation director. So do you, as the administrator, Dean, would you continue to be the supervisor of a director?
It's up to the board, I think. That's,
It
I
says
mean-
ultimately the board in all of our
Right.
paperwork.
Yeah.
I mean, it always has, I think. And Dean's your representative, he deals with what he
Well, we
needs
had
to deal
this
with.
with the rec coordinator versus the rec director. Rec director is not supervised by
And
the
it
administration.
makes a difference when you try to evaluate the responsibility as to how many, I mean, it can be worse or better having more people looking over your shoulder depending on the people, but, because like the volunteer coordinator says that they're ultimately responsible to the town administrator and the select board and the senior center board, doesn't say the new position, so something like that should be crystal clear, I think, once it gets going.
I
I don't
guess
think I have a job
guess
description for the activities.
we have to clear this hurdle first.
Well,
Yes, I
that's in your
understand.
current job, that's in your.
So in this description, it's, for this, it's supervised by the senior center board, but as a town employee, directly responsible to the town people.
So,
I know, I suppose it's a small matter in one sense, but as a member of the Friends, I really want somebody in the building who's in charge of the building, you know, and it's written in the job description, so that if something goes haywire with the furnace or something, there's somebody there who's
responsible.
responsible for making the contacts, whatever. And that has been somewhat of a problem in this past year, that wasn't in anybody's job description, that they were responsible for the building. And it makes me very nervous.
Well, from that standpoint, if it's only in the director's job description without the ability to delegate that to somebody else, that means the director's there an awful long time, or, so I'm assuming that's been taken care of. I didn't.
Well, in the new description, it's in there.
so should we go, if we're on board with the concept, do you want to go through the actual job description? In front of us, we have the old one, Activities Director, and we have the new one called Senior Center Director. And if we want to understand what these changes are, we find that acceptable, we can approve the job description. So I don't know if you, do we need to walk through it or look at it section by section, or it's not particularly complicated, it's just two sides. So the director coordinates senior center facility and programs. So the previous one was just senior center programs, so now this is, you just pointed out facilities and programs. So that's the top line of the job summary.
So, when you mention facilities, the question begs itself that it's been running for a significant amount of time. One could look at it and say what is going to be the change? I mean, that's new director, what is the change that required this? What is going to be different at the senior center from the way it used to be?
Managing the facilities and not managing it to managing it.
So I'm hearing that I'm hearing that the answer to that is kind of a long-term creep sort of issue, that things have been getting done by happenstance and,
The board has been responsible for the facility, so what happens is that whoever happens to be there is scrambling to find a board member by phone or whatever to deal with something because they don't have the responsibility, that person doesn't. So changing it from that kind of catch-as-catch-can situation to something where, I can call so-and-so, if I can call the plumber, because that's part of my job, and I expect it.
so the board is sort of relinquishing its duties in that term.
I think just trying to make it more an immediate solution than having to run around and, I don't know, pretty well.
I think so. The past activities director was doing some of this without portfolio, had no written responsibility to spend any of that town money, to commit the town to pay a plumber or electrician or anybody. Sometimes she did because it needed to be done, but theoretically she wasn't. But you're right, there's been some creeping change. We go back 15 years, Shirley Bean used to be there every day and a good deal of the time. And anything that came up, well, she took responsibility and saw it got done. Well, gradually she withdrew somewhat from that, and there was a creep in terms of how much Mary Recchia took on, because there was a trust between us that she would do what was right for the town. And one would hope that the next person, if it was labeled just activities director, would also take responsibility for what needs to be done today. But we think it ought to be put in the description.
Well, we have to look at to some extent, to the change from when the job description was written in 2014 versus 2017.
Well, it was updated, yeah.
And as much as it sounds strange, we are supposed to be blind to the person doing the job, which is almost impossible, especially when you're first starting something like this. But to make sure that the future job description doesn't put us in the position, if somebody leaves and their unwritten talents are missed, that there has to be changed again. Hopefully that the job description is done through the expectations of you guys for what or whom you don't know yet, or their predecessor will be somewhat consistent. When the person's talents and or volunteers or what they do because they can is really not something that we consider, are supposed to consider.
But I'm concerned that I don't think volunteers, we're volunteers, should be in charge of the facility. I think that a town employee should be officially in charge of the facility.
I don't necessarily disagree. I know that, you know, that's a valid point. That's happened before with the fire department, for example. Want all volunteers. You got different rules with volunteer labor, trying to manage volunteer labor than you do with an actual employee. And I would tend to agree with you that matters of public safety and the condition of the building should be someone who has that as their definite responsibility, not I'll do it if I have the time.
Or it's not in my job description,
Yeah.
therefore. I think we're trying to clarify what in fact has happened, and also what we would hope would continue to happen.
So another way of looking at
And
this,
to
Fritz,
roll it into one thing.
I really don't necessarily have a question as to what's happening. I just want to make sure it's discussed and somewhat documented that this has been considered and these are the reasons that bring this up, not just, you know, because this is the public forum and the documentation for the process, so.
it doesn't necessarily mean the grade's going to change. We can look at that. But I think they're trying to provide a definition that is different from the old definition, from old job description to the new job description. There is a change, and what the expectation is from a senior center director versus an activities director, which is, we've attempted collectively to define in the job description.
Something has changed, and this is why it has changed.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, I think we ought to just go through this, see if you're okay with how it's been defined. I do think we should look at the Palmer analysis. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to change, but we ought to look at it, which is what we did with the rec coordinator to rec director. We went through this process that we're talking about now, because there was a change then, and this is kind of a parallel situation. This is a change. So my question is, should we walk through the job description to see if we're all okay with it?
Sure.
I mean, I've read it, I contributed to it, you've contributed, Dean's contributed, so a lot of us have been a part of it. I do think it reflects what is changed. Essentially, it adds facilities to the programs. The qualifications are spelled out a little more carefully. The CPR and AED training is a requirement now, just because of the influx of what's been going on over the fire station, you know, training us on the equipment. So that, I mean, that's a new requirement, not necessarily an additional responsibility, but it's an expectation. I mean, it's still a bachelor's degree, experience working with seniors. You know, it's a better defined job description. And then the duties, day-to-day operation, under the category 1, management coordination of programs for seniors. And then under 2, facility management supervision. So it makes the point there of now the broader scope of the job.
Would this person be really how much time are they spending working with the seniors? Or are they having to do a lot with the building and, you know, so,
The majority will still be
with the seniors, yeah.
To me, that it's what I think you may have said, Wally, it's, or Susan, you've got somebody who's the point person, somebody who can take that responsibility, call the plumber. You don't have to call a volunteer director who may be on vacation or is not available. But if you have a town employee and then you have a volunteer coordinator, it's another town employee. You've got a system where they can take on the responsibilities, and then the board of directors can work you know, they can volunteer as they want in the center, but more of a policy rather than, you know, I gotta make sure the doors are locked every night or the fire alarm is checked, you know. We're taking those tasks away from the volunteer board and put it on the 2 employees.
So there's a track instructor's performance. I'm assuming there'll be some sort of, is there criteria for that?
Where are you seeing that?
I'm looking at the new description, number E. It says when you track somebody's performance, I mean, I guess, just curious if there's going to be a program or a method with which to say this is a good instructor or that's not a good instructor, or they're have the appropriate credentials, the insurance and what have you to do the,
I think that's kind of a continuation of what had been done. It's what we're talking about is the instructors that come in and teach yoga.
Right. I think tracking it is just paying attention to see how the classes are running and how the instructor is working with the
Yeah,
people
I'm
in the
just
class.
kind of going line by line,
Yeah.
comparing and questioning. It
I
seems to
think
have
that
popped up.
the instructor's credentials and all of that come way before the instructors in the building.
This seems like a big job to me.
So with the facility management, they will, I assume, work with, will have to be educated in our purchasing policy and work with Dean, I guess, to see who, there's probably already records for who's been doing what, but.
So there'll be new records.
So what do we have in for the budget now? Is it, Dean, for Mary's role, is that 30 hours?
28.
28. So now they're proposing 30 to 35. So we'd be, if it came in at 35, a new person coming up to speed, we'd be impacting our budget a little bit, 5 hours a week or so. Huh?
You'd be impacting it more on that considering who you've hired, because Mary Reckie never took the health insurance that the town offered.
Good
So
point.
you could have a family, you could have whatever.
So most likely the new person would probably take health insurance.
That's,
It's going to be true.
That's
whether you
a benefit that we offer.
yeah, we
I
don't
mean,
have,
that is what it is. But I think we're just, our eyes should be open that we'll have 6 months before the new budget year starts, that we would be, you know, over our budget. I mean, just
could be.
not objecting, just a point of order, that's all.
Well, Mary is fairly far up in the grid.
Yep.
And we don't have any idea where the next person will be, whether it'll be in the same job category or where it'll be in the grid. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to figure out what impact it's going to have for this year.
Well, once you do the Palmer, you can figure out the maximum, because it would be someone at whatever point score you come at with 5 years of experience, because that's the maximum.
And I think Mary was certainly higher than that on the pay grid.
But the insurance is significant. We,
Well, that's more of a person thing than,
yeah, we have never put the dollar sign on
Right.
the benefits,
All
and
the benefits would be the same where we don't use the old job description and hire somebody at 28 hours, they'd be eligible for the insurance, wouldn't they?
Different levels.
Well, yeah.
More hours.
But still,
Yeah.
So further with my suggestion is if we're okay with this, have a motion to approve this, allow the senior center to go and advertise. And then I was going to suggest, since we have a time frame here, maybe we don't have a scheduled meeting next Monday, maybe spend 1 hour and go through the Palmer next Monday, so we can do step by step, approve this tonight, and allow the posting to get going. So we wouldn't have a definite pay, but certainly it will be there's certainly a range that could be understood.
Well, I suspect we could get it would have to be a range.
Well, we wouldn't advertise it with a range, that we would advertise it that pay proportion, according to, experience and
Right.
what have you. So we have a little time. We're going to get in a bunch of resumes. We won't begin to deal even with the question that comes up, well, how much does it pay? We will be deflecting those until we have a collection of resumes.
We got a place to start anyway. I don't think it's gonna go down.
So that you'll be screening candidates, it takes a while to get it advertised, you're gonna keep it open for 10 days or more. So by the time all that's done, we could get the second part of this done.
Yeah.
Mondays are wastewater.
Huh?
Every Monday that's not select board is wastewater
Okay.
committee.
Yes, Mary?
So what exactly is the supervisory role of the town administrator / select board? Where you say supervised by? I mean, that person is supervised absolutely by the senior center board, is a town employee and receives the benefits as a town employee. But the select board has never, you don't do an employee evaluation on the senior center director. You basically, honestly, don't know what that person does. So, if you're not gonna supervise that person, if you're not gonna evaluate that person or really have that contact, why have that in there?
Well,
That person is under the control of the senior center board.
I agree with that. But the administrative time cards, health benefits, somebody to sign off on those?
The senior center is similar to the library in that the senior center board knows what hours the person is working over in the senior center, just like the library trustees know what hours the library people are working, and that's why they sign off on those timesheets.
That's fine.
We don't know anything sitting over here.
I will say, not the activities director, but the previous volunteer coordinator, I spent quite a bit of time with when there were issues regarding personnel. So, I didn't supervise everything she did, but I spent quite a bit of time with her working through some of the problems that were occurring.
And who was that? Or not,
That-
you don't have to name, but what? position?
The volunteer coordinator.
Well, the volunteer coordinator will now be working for this director. And I suspect there'll be some learning how to spend money things, but once they figure it out,
As with any job, as they figure it out, they become more independent.
The activities director that's a new position, it's a new person.
That was Mary.
that was Mary.
Mary's leaving.
You spent a lot of
The
time,
volunteer
the
coordinator,
volunteer coordinator is new.
the previous one.
Oh, a year, how long is, she's been there a
Year
year.
and a half.
Year and a half.
This was the previous one Dean's talking about, the first one.
So guys, are we in a position to make a motion to approve the job description?
What about the supervised by?
Well, we can make a change if you feel that
You
it should
just
be.
said you thought,
Well,
I'd like to hear more discussion on that.
depends on what you're supervising. I mean, if you consider administering supervising, I mean, in particular, the purchasing policy should be,
I don't think we
Done by the administrator.
care particularly how you word that. In the end, you folks control everything in the budget, and you are delegating personnel kinds of things to the administrator. How you want to leave this wording, I don't think we feel very strongly about. If you want to make it responsible just to ultimately the town administrator and leave select board out, that's fine, or if you don't want to have anything in about the town administrator. But the director will not have any ability to say this person is going to have this for insurance or that for vacation or whatever. That responsibility lies in the town hall. And all we were trying to do was put that in, but if you don't like the way it's worded, I'd say fix it.
I think it's fine the way it is, for the same reason that you want a director. So no one's gonna say it's not my job.
Yeah.
On that basis.
That summarizes it beautifully.
Not that I would expect that to happen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. You haven't been sued yet.
do we have to approve job descriptions?
I think we
do.
should. Just
For an
because it's
employee, yeah.
new, I think we should.
Different than the library with their board and their.
Right. They're a
rules.
volunteer board, the library is an elected board. I think it makes the record clear, then we have a clear document to do the Palmer. Won't get changed without our review.
So when it's a non-exempt hourly, I don't know, and they're in charge of a facility that's open 7 days a week. There should be some care in scheduling hours, so overtime is not, you can't work somebody 7 days a week. So if they can only work 5 days a week and
Well,
the,
it's really only open regularly 5 days a week, and on the weekends for certain things, but not full
if
days.
somebody's in charge of the building for those certain
Well,
things.
that's true. You're right.
That's nothing with the description, just for the dollar thing that always gets in the way. I don't have any more questions.
Want to make a motion to approve it?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the senior center job description for the senior center director. Draft dated 10/18/17.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. So I'm proposing, if you guys are available to do, I think we should look at the Palmer. Since folks on the board work, like yourself, I was going to suggest 6 o'clock next Monday. Just spend an hour and just do this only. So-
Next Monday at 6 o'clock, I'll be in the wastewater meeting.
When
They
does
start
that
at
start and end?
5:30, usually goes to about 7, when people run out of gas.
Go 4 to 5:30?
Well, it's up to Carrie. I mean, can you want to start at 4? I don't think it'll take too long. I looked at it already.
4:30.
You want to, let's do it 4:30?
Sure.
Okay? Okay, 4:30?
And we will need to look at volunteer coordinator, because we'll have to do the same thing with them?
I don't think so. I don't think so. All we're gonna do there is change the description to say that person reports to the senior center director. I don't believe we need to do anything else. That person's responsibilities are not changing. It's just who they're reporting to, and that's it. So I would say no to that.
I
So
didn't get
they're
that in my packet.
They are not going to be delegated as to any of the facilities
But I think
duties?
they can do that as employee to employee with oversight from the board. I don't think we need to. I think the next time they update the job description, make that point clear that they work for the senior center director, but I don't see us going through. Responsibilities aren't really changing.
The situation when the volunteer coordinator is the employee and something breaks, then they are bound to get a hold of the director or the board
Right.
to handle it,
That's right.
and not expected to do it themselves.
That's fine, or if
Is
it's
that the
routine, if it's.
expectations?
Yeah, but if it's routine, we know who the plumber is, or they can, it's just a matter of making a call. Or if there's a bigger deal, there's a flooding going on, call, a member of the board or the president of the
Well,
board. I
that,
think.
yeah, that will change the Palmer, and then when somebody who's in that position says, now I gotta know how to call plumbers and all that
No, I
other
don't think-
stuff.
I don't think we should do that.
You want to look at that?
No,
Yeah,
I think we
well,
ought-
I didn't get that in my packet.
I didn't either. I don't have it
I'll
either.
send it
I
to you.
would
I'll give it to you.
like
The
to-
volunteer,
Yeah,
okay.
Let's just
I'd
deal with
like
this
to
one.
have that.
Fulfill-
Yeah.
Mine's
I
not
didn't
in my
get that
packet.
either. So I would like to, I think
I
both of them.
have, I think you should take a
be
look
looked-
at it.
What do you think?
I think they should take a look at it.
Okay,
It seems
Okay.
like it. You're changing one.
okay, so we can move on?
Is that 4:30 on Monday?
4:30 on Monday. Thank you. Thanks for the discussion. Oh, Matt just said he's not gonna be here till 7, okay. Okay, I gotta make sure 4:30 Monday works for me.
I tried pencil
You want a pink one?
Yeah, it's the sound of that clicking.
Oh, well, I want a pink one if you got it. I'll leave a red one.
There, but you
Okay,
hold this.
the next item on the agenda. Charles Russell for town meeting moderator. We advertised for a period of time. Is that right, Dean?
That's correct.
And even though Charles's, his application came in after the due date, it did come in, and there were no other candidates, is that correct?
I haven't received any other.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know, when was the time period that you advertised this?
I think the notice is in the packet. I put it in.
I didn't
the
see
Charlotte
that.
News and and Front Porch Forum.
I mean, I know
was at one
I
of the
know that you
meetings.
did, but I
Right.
just wanted, I didn't really see
The
where that
deadline,
was in my packet.
The
It
deadline was.
just said that you had to submit it by September 29th. When was
Right.
it started?
When did it start? The select board approved the notice, I believe it is
September.
September 11th, I believe.
Because I did see that now in the minutes.
That would have been on the agenda.
I remember talking about it, so I don't remember what meeting it was.
It probably was at September 11th. So I just looked at those minutes not too long ago, and yes,
Okay.
it was, for sure. So is that really long enough? I don't know what the statute is.
That's what we do. It's normal period of time.
I think if anything, we didn't get it, per statute, we didn't get it advertised soon enough. They said we gave us 10 days, I think it is?
So I don't think well, why don't you tell us why you'd like the job, Charles? I don't think we need to interview you, but tell us why you'd like the job.
Well, I think it's a job that obviously a lot of people want, it's very desirable. I think with my experience on the select board, I have the skills and the personality and time to do it.
So now the school no longer, we don't have a school meeting, so that's, you've got nothing to do with that.
Well, there's still a school meeting.
But I don't think the moderators, I thought we've combined.
You're not gonna be the school moderator, Charlie.
Okay, so, so it went away because of the. That's right.
Right, so it's just
Right.
the town meeting.
Right,
Okay.
now I remember, yes. They had to elect one this year, but they didn't have
Right,
anything.
you left it one, but they didn't get to do anything.
Right.
So is there a motion to appoint Charles Russell for the position of town moderator? And that appointment would last until
Town meeting day.
the town meeting day, so it's for a one-time meeting. And then whoever wants to apply the normal way can. Who just resigned?
It's done.
Ed Stone resigned. He was elected and resigned, so it's vacant. So this appointment would be valid until the town meeting day. So is there a motion to nominate Charles Russell for town meeting moderator?
I'll make a motion to interview.
To do what?
To interview. After this lengthy interview, to appoint Charles Russell for town meeting moderator.
Okay. Is that seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Congratulations.
You lucky dog.
Study those Robert's rules, please, so we don't get caught. Okay. Water quality stewardship.
That's me.
I have to look up your name, I keep forgetting. Tell me your name again.
Krista Hofstad's.
Krista, that's right. So what are we doing? Look at my notes.
I think we're talking about this year's contract, so fiscal year 2017 to 2018. So we're halfway through that contract right now.
So it's a contract with whom?
It's through the Conservation Commission. So we get $2,700 each year for a water quality stewardship program that includes all invasive species management activities in Charlotte and water quality sampling.
Okay. So who is Stephanie Dwyer? That's the head of the...
She does our insurance.
Oh, that's your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So who is the lead person who provides the contract services? Is that your committee?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, LCA just does the contract through the Conservation Commission.
So who, help me out a bit, Dean, who does, the $2,700 a year, that gets paid to Lewis
paid-
Creek Association?
Correct.
But are they the volunteers?
No, the Conservation Commission is the volunteer organization that oversees or hires Lewis
Yes,
Creek
through their
Association.
budget.
So then, who is this organization then? Who do you spend, how do you spend the money?
We spend the money on supplies, which we put into a fund for boats and stuff like that, so that doesn't get spent every year. Also for reporting and outreach, and then for coordinating all of the volunteers.
And this is a renewal of the existing one?
It's been contracted to Lewis Creek for the last 2 or 3 years. And probably the service has been provided before that without a contract.
Does this pass the new workers' comp rules?
They, Krista provided a non-employee work agreement, which is for organizations that don't carry workers' comp. Sorry.
And just to note for the record, we will have to, right now I am a subcontractor, but I will have to become an employee through LCA next year, so I'll be getting workers' comp, so if we do need to change any paperwork,
By next year, starting
meaning starting 2018.
January 2018?
Yeah, so in the middle of your fiscal year.
Okay. So at that point, we'll get a workers' comp certificate of insurance?
Yeah.
Okay. We also have a certificate of insurance and a W-9.
which is here. Is there a motion to renew this?
This is just a lump sum contract, basically.
Yeah.
I'll pay, so everything is paid at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year?
Correct.
Or,
If you want that further broken down, we have those further broken down.
well, is this a preferred vendor? The Conservation Commission can't pay you more than $1,000 without doing some amount of work.
I believe they actually are, but I'd have to,
You have a question, Mary, while we're looking this up?
The reason we do it this way is because the auditors gave us ways in order to pay Lewis Creek for their frog bit, or whatever they want to, whatever you're calling it, for this project, rather than submitting to me invoices of people's time and rates and supplies and this and that, which seemed to be difficult to do. He said that as long as we just had a contract that the select board signed off on and said, we're gonna pay you $2,700 and this is what we expect you to do, everybody signs, everybody's happy, we're good to go.
Okay.
Well, that answers some questions right there. Thank you very much, Mary.
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve the Water Quality Stewardship Program, the contract with Lewis Creek Association for FY18.
I'll second that.
You second it?
Yes.
Any further questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
You're
Yeah.
set.
That's right. I'm taking my pen.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
nope.
Public comments? Budget presentations? You're on center stage. Josh? It's going to be a tough one?
Yeah.
I better read this again. Town report. Okay, $2,000, what we paid. It's what we budgeted.
You didn't pay a thing.
Okay, at this point, I think it's not likely. Prior year's thousands budget position. You did not seek payment.
Nope.
What about the rental of these lights? Did that, for Halloween, did that come under your?
Nope, comes out of the safety budget, right?
No, it comes out of the constable.
Okay, it comes out of my budget now.
Okay,
Comes out of Halloween lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constable is a single line, and Halloween lights happen to come underneath Josh.
okay. So we're seeking your intentions for this new budget.
Level funded.
Level funded at zero?
Yep.
You don't want to be paid?
It's my way of giving back.
Okay.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time at the tractor parade.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you. It's great.
So, this year we did town meeting, tractor parade, Charlotte Safety Day. I had one other thing that I did, but I don't remember what it was.
Halloween.
Oh, yeah, Halloween.
You ready for that?
Oh, yeah. It's
How
my
many-
favorite. It's my favorite gig.
So how many sets of lights did you all decide? Because it was a
4.
debate.
4.
So,
There's one that goes at Charlotte Firehouse.
Yep.
One that goes up at the intersection.
Yep.
One down by my house and one down by Chris Davis's house.
Oh, so you're covering Greenbush Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
The switches that lock.
Say that again?
The switches that lock, wasn't that part of it?
Yeah, well, the one down by Chris Davis's has to be locked. Because somebody down there doesn't like the fact that the lights are up and it kills the ambiance.
so, of Halloween, but I'd much rather kill the ambiance of Halloween than having a smushed kid, so.
So what are your time, like 5:30 to 7 kind of thing?
Say that again?
Your time for the lights being on? Probably 5, when is daylight savings? It's not-
Dark until
doesn't
we're
change.
done, so usually 9, 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
We close the road for that?
No, I've thought about it, but it would make it, we'd have to put somebody at either end of the road. And I don't want to put a firefighter down either end of the road, it just doesn't make sense. So just deal with traffic.
Not an easy place to turn around either, you'd have to
Yeah,
put
no.
them way down the road.
Yeah.
And then-
So it's, just deal with the traffic, no one ever complains. Excuse me, no one ever complains about the traffic on Halloween. I think by far that's the, one of the better events we have in town.
Well, good. Well, thank you for your contribution.
Well,
Don't have to vote on anything. The 0 is,
0 is 0.
right. Appreciate
All
it.
right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
Okay. Shelburne Charlotte Little League. We're a little ahead of schedule. Are you
It's all
the,
right, I'm ready.
okay.
I can't follow that, but I'll say 0.
Okay.
But I will say level funded. Little League baseball and softball, alive and well in Charlotte at the Berry Farm. Numbers are up, volunteer efforts are up. I've been coming here for a bit now to talk to you guys, and it's nice to report there was quite a dip there for a while, and baseballs and softball have really found a strong place in the community again, which is great. And the line item is quite simple. It's the town puts in their town mowing package, the mowing for the Berry Farm, so that just becomes a part of the bidding process with the town. And then there's some money for fertilization, which we've done for years. The vendor's been very supportive. He hasn't raised his price in, I think, 10 years.
So you've been $10,000 for the last couple of years,
Yeah,
and you're saying you're going to stay at that level?
yeah.
So the one, they only fertilized once last year, this year?
You know, it always,
Twice.
yeah, it's
Spring and
it's,
fall, or summer.
there's
summer.
one in the spring and then there's one in the summer. So it always falls from one fiscal year to the other. So the second one will be in the spring.
This is the organic fertilizer.
It is.
Works well.
Yeah, fields have, I mean, how many years? It's been 15 plus years with those fields, and they're in great shape.
Does the town, we were down there walking in the trails yesterday. So that's town property, it has been for the 15 years? My generation was out at the beach, and so
Right.
15 years or so ago, the town bought that land?
So now you're predating me,
Okay.
Lane, but there's a group, so the
I remember him.
Charlotte Little League is technically a nonprofit entity that owns it.
Oh, it's not,
Fields.
it's what?
You might be mixing up fields if you're talking about Lake Road Field
I was thinking of the fields by the trail,
at the Berry Farm.
and then you
At
look
the
to the
Berry
left,
Farm.
and that's the Berry Farm Fields, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So that's
drive
where
into
you-
the Berry Farm, bear left.
So back to my question, I was aware of that.
Yeah.
Who owns that land? The Little League owns it?
Yes,
Okay, and then we maintain it?
yes.
Okay. Yes, Margaret?
So I don't know if this is the right venue to be doing that. I'm Margaret from the Trails Committee.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to start a dialogue about a possible easement through there for trails users. And maybe some parking spots when the Little League fields are not being used. And so I just want to bring that up. That's something the Trails Committee would really like. And I don't know how that would work with, considering the budget that the town pays for them.
So it's probably not a budget item, but
Yeah, it's really,
you guys could work it out.
yeah, it's something to discuss. I think the simple answer this evening is we certainly want to support that. And I think that, the understanding, if you've ever been there, when there's a bunch of games, there's not a lot of parking.
Right.
So to understand those times and be flexible to working around those stretches, I don't see a problem.
Do you all have regular meetings?
We do, yeah. There's regular as in, volunteer regular.
Well, what if we've got an opportunity for somebody from the committee to come and meet with you all and talk about it in that venue? Maybe that'd be a good place to start.
Sure.
And then I could just CC the select board about that. That'd be great.
Anybody have any questions? Mary?
I think maybe you want to just increase that just a little bit because your mowing costs have gone up each year. The fertilizer stays the same. It's like $33.30 for the whole year for fertilizing, but the mowing has inched its way up.
I don't see that number, so I appreciate that input.
So maybe you don't want to do maybe 11,000, and that's on the low side.
What was the unexpended balance of 1260 due to?
Pardon?
We budgeted 10,000, but they're at 1260 unexpended.
I don't know what you're
Oh, we're looking at page 2 of the handout, and it says
They're underrunning the budget by
There's only one fertilizer on that one.
Okay.
So that's,
1,600.
You also have, you sometimes would have two different mowers, two different people.
Oh, if you're.
Brush hogging.
Yeah, you're.
Depending
Well,
on
no,
depending on who gets
got
that
the
bid, it might be a little bit different.
We always straddle the 2 fiscal years, so it's always, if you change your mowing contractor, then we
So just like the 15, 16, or the 16, 17 mowing bid was 6,500 and the 17, 18 bid was 7840. So so there you go.
if this had a second application of fertilizer, it'd be over budget.
Right, 400 over.
So you're saying 11,000 in total would,
I'm actually saying 11 too, but
11,200 is your recommendation?
yeah. And if they don't use all that money, well, bonus.
So much for level fund.
Everybody on board with that?
Yeah.
Recommendation?
Yeah.
11,200 for the budget plan? So we're not voting, it's just you're coming forth for your draft, we'll roll it up in a couple months?
we'll hope that the bids come in better too, because that would be a piece for savings for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you'll work with trails and get an easement, that's good. Well, we're ahead of schedule for the road commission.
He's right on time.
Oh, we're early, he's on our time. Dean, are people showing up for the Thompson Point lease, terminate and approval?
They are.
They are?
They're here.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. We're gonna do this first. Hello, Junior. How are the roads today?
Pretty good. Dry.
Till tomorrow.
That's it. We need some rain for sure, so we can grade some.
Okay, you want to tell us about your budget and your plan? And it hasn't been too complicated the last few years.
No, and it's, it's basically gonna stay the same, level funded again. see any,
903,250?
yep.
There's no inflation in any of the things that you have to buy? The
Well,
people you have to pay?
well, there is, but, you know, I think the reason is because of, the work that we've been doing, has been paying off. So, you know, like, we're not, since we built up the dirt roads, you know, we're not grading as much. We still have to add add material and stuff in the spring and stuff like that. But I mean, I think it's definitely paying off, and that's why we've been able to keep, you know, level.
As the blacktop, I mean, you get offset by state funding, but
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
that-
the blacktop, you know, we don't get as much miles as we used to get done. And, you know, in general, our blacktop is in pretty good shape. You know what I mean? Compared to a lot of other towns. So I think, you know, our blacktop is okay. And one of the reasons is there's not a lot of construction going on, you know, all around town like there was earlier, you know, when I first took over and stuff. So it's definitely, building has slowed down a lot.
so I see, Fritz, they're fixing the State Park Road.
I think
Which-
they're done. I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Now, it's on today,
I think
they've,
Did they do a transition reasonably well at the top of their paving, or is it one
I
of
haven't-
these?
it's perfect. It was a perfect transition, because I mentioned it when I went over it.
No.
You don't even know it. And then on the other side, East Thompson's Point Road, they were paving that today too. Looked pretty nice.
Yeah, it looked good. I didn't go over either one of them, but they looked good driving down 7.
They, paver made a perfect transition this time.
They got pretty
That would be
good.
amazing for Pike.
So what do you want to talk about on your level budget? Anything? Anything you're worried about?
No, I mean, you know, I think the biggest, I don't know if it's the biggest, but lately we've been having a lot of signs pulled up. You know, I don't know if it's kids pulling up signs and throwing them in the ditch, you know, speed limit signs, stop signs, so.
I saw a lot of them, but it was part of the highway, like East Thompson's Point Road. But the V-Trans pulled those out.
Yeah, V-Trans pulled them, yeah. No, I'm not talking there. I'm talking like Mount Philo and 1 Mile Road. They pulled the stop sign there. They pulled the speed limit sign on Guinea on Guinea by 1 mile. They pulled another one over on Lewis Creek, just as you turn onto Lewis Creek from the covered bridge. So backed into them. Town Line Road,
Are they stealing them? They're leaving them there?
some of them, they're stealing the street signs off the top, but like the speed limit signs, they're just leaving them, just pulling them up and throwing them out in the,
And they're pulling them out of the ground, or?
yeah, pulling them out of the ground.
You have
Some of them, they broke. The one that actually had graffiti there
Oh,
called.
yeah.
Yeah, your uncle there called and said that he picked one out of the field. Well, it was over on Guinea, that when he was walking, that somebody broke it off, you know, not drove off the road, but either hooked onto it with something and broke the post off, so.
So put those on elastic posts.
Yeah, well, I don't know who it is,
Is the constable still here?
you know, Dan Cole saw somebody do the one up at the, I call it Hart's old store there at the, right up here at the Churchill and Heinsberg Road, that stop sign there. He said they pulled right up and backed right over it. He was, yeah, he was, well, that's what he thinks that they did, but they took off. He just heard it because it was a loud truck that did it, so. So I don't know if it's just somebody just going around doing it or what, but.
It's the Russians.
Could be.
Conspiracy.
Could be.
So you're gonna try to do early paving again this year? Or try for it again?
You're gonna try to do it before July 1, yeah.
We're kind of back on, we're on that schedule now, right? Since you did bit the bullet this year with the paving, to get it done early.
No, we're not on that we're not on that schedule yet.
No.
We're still the same place we were. I still have the reserve money that we can use for this coming, or next spring, I should say, before July 1. Could use that money, and then we would get on schedule. But we're not yet, because they couldn't get here until after July. I think they started June 30th or something like that,
That's pretty wet.
one day.
Well, looking at the brush removal highway, it looks like you were under for 2017. And I know Mark Dillenbeck, the tree warden, myself, and Dale Bergdahl have formed a small committee to talk about ash tree preparedness for the borer when it comes. So we'll probably be getting in touch with you. It seems like there might be enough unspent money in there annually that maybe we could enlist you
Well, we
guys
could
to...
start on it. There's a lot of ash trees in town.
There are. Well, the first job is we're getting together and prioritizing which ones to take, if it's close to telephone lines, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then which ones are near specimen trees that we want to promote and not have them fall on a really nice maple or a really nice oak. Instead, we'd free them up by taking that ash early.
Yeah.
I think it's already here. I mean, just by the number of dead ash trees on my farm and on Guinea Road.
Yeah, it hasn't been spotted. The purple boxes are out. It's kind of a anomaly since it's in every border of Vermont.
Oh, we don't have it, you're saying?
We technically, the state entomologists have not identified it here yet, but yeah.
Maybe they should change box color.
Or the hormone they use inside.
Chasing them away. The same guy that takes the signs down. is messing with
Maybe,
the boxes.
yeah, could be.
Well, we, as taxpayers, appreciate your level funding again and the good work you do, week after week.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of the budget too.
So, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Just whip right through this stuff. Do you want to, do we have leases to terminate, or
Yeah,
how
you
does
could
that
do-
work?
You could do that now, I think. Parties here.
Yeah, that's the next item. You guys are the new leaseholders? Oh, my dog doesn't bark at you when I go by.
I hope he does. Your ordinance like that.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Talk to the constable. Not in his budget.
Rule of law.
So we're here to terminate the lease of Patrick A. Joyce and Deidre J. Joyce.
Patricia, actually.
It's what?
Patricia.
Patrick is Patricia.
Oh, Patricia, thank you. And Deidre. Is there a motion to terminate that lease? 730 and 736 North Shore Road? So that was a motion?
Sure.
Is that seconded?
Second?
Why not?
Authorize, somebody have to sign it? Authorize the chair to sign in that motion?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye?
That family's been leasing since 1935. One family.
Wow, same family?
Yeah.
So why don't I sign this? So Mary, you're the presence notary? Okay. And now, is there a motion to approve a new 20-year lease, FR4 Properties LLC?
Got it.
If I'll make that motion to approve a new 20-year lease to FR4 Properties LLC.
Second?
Okay.
And to have the chair sign.
Okay. Any comments on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've read the lease thoroughly.
Anna Charlotte would be here. Okay. Mary, want these, or who wants these?
One of you can be a witness, because let's say there's two witnesses.
I think Carrie
You wanna-
saw that.
You want to be a witness on these?
I saw 'em.
I was looking the other way.
And then in this one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emergency planning, you don't know if Chris Davis,
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I would go on and do it and
Do
go
other
down the agenda,
things?
come back to that.
so why don't we do, you want to do minutes, get that out of the way? There's a set of minutes, September 25th in your packet, and we met 2 weeks ago. We didn't have a quorum that attended, but we do have a quorum, because I missed that meeting. Excuse me. So we do have a quorum. So is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 25th as may be amended?
So moved?
Second.
Okay. Now I have a question. I wasn't there, but on line 101, what's our municipal policy? What's that?
That is,
Line 101?
that's the municipal infrastructure policy that we've been working on slowly. The development process.
Infrastructure added to it?
What's the title?
Like for the trail thing, when
Municipal,
we have a meeting,
yeah.
and they-
Oh, that's right. It's how we deal with
Any
a
municipal
process.
infrastructure.
Oh, okay.
So municipal infrastructure development policy. And as I see, we have a draft of the next two meetings. I'd like to see if we
Okay.
can squeeze that in.
Okay. That was my one question
Yeah.
I don't get to.
Municipal infrastructure. Mid-P. Oh.
On line 107 and 110, it's Kazanuk. And you're gonna ask me how to spell that.
Yep.
Does that start with K?
COSINUKE?
I believe,
I think it's INUKE.
It's in the Charlotte News, right? These are the new officers.
I'm sure I got
Do you have a
it
spelling?
somewhere from
You
here.
looking it up?
Thought it started with a K.
No, it starts with
I
a C.
thought it starts with a C.
COSINUKE.
Okay.
And I guess if you're on that line, that it should just be fire captain, not fire chief captain.
Fire captain?
Yes, line 107.
Yep.
And then Kazanuk shows up in a few other places.
I'll just do a global.
Okay, perfect.
Find him in place.
Everybody good? All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm abstaining since I wasn't at the meeting.
And it looks like we'll have to hold off on the October 9th minutes.
Because
Quorum of those attending.
Frank,
is
yeah,
not
we'll have to
here.
hold off, you're right. Okay. So we're gonna go back to emergency planning, which is Chris Davis. Are you a band of one that's here to talk to us?
I think you asked me, right, because I was your emergency manager,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I'm not exactly sure what I can do, but I've got some ideas to talk about if you guys don't have specific questions for me. Dean, I think your thought was after the board had adopted the all hazard mitigation plan, maybe you guys were interested in what the follow-on to that is?
Yeah, and I guess it just, with all the hurricanes and whatnot and hearing all the problems that people are having, reacting too late.
Yeah.
Once something has happened, then, began thinking, well, what the last time you were here has probably been 2 years ago, I think. Well, I'm just guessing.
Well, I was here for the all hazard.
Yes, for the all hazard, but that's like natural disaster. I mean, that's true, but what else can we do
I think to
organizationally?
start, I've got meetings Wednesday and Thursday with people to give us prices for generators for the standby generators for the senior center and the town hall. Now, the senior center at a meeting a year or two ago thought that may be a better option for a shelter because of the size, the number of people that may show up, the cost to actually energize the school being prohibitive, and the proximity to the rescue. The reason to have a standby generator for this building is because none of those buildings have sewer until this building's hot. So even though they would have water and power, they wouldn't have flush unless the circuit that's in the lister's office there is operating. So I plan to get 3 bids, and then I guess we can look for some, if we have a pretty good number, we can start looking for grants or.
With the numbers and with the fact that you guys have the all hazard mitigation plan that's now working its way through to FEMA, right, according to.
Sure.
And in the plan, Fritz is exactly right. The plan identifies the senior center as a shelter location, and an alternate being the school. And we've learned from prior select board members who investigated it that the cost it still should be a long-term planning thing to figure out how to, maybe the thought of the school might be, and Fritz and I can work on this, or however you guys decide you want us to collaborate. But with the school and the school board, maybe the funds that we were able to get is just to get a bigger plug-in, so to speak, at the school, so that if it had to be a shelter, maybe the National Guard comes down and plugs a generator in. The big thing now is it has several different systems in different parts of the building there, so it's hard to, when we first thought about it years ago and actually the school was used during the ice storm as a temporary shelter just for a couple of days, and it turned out people really didn't need a place to stay. It was nice to have a nice place to hang out for a couple of the days, and then after that people didn't use it that way. They were basically dropping the kids off and going to town, so we closed the shelter. But it doesn't mean that something couldn't be big enough that it might be required, but the immediate one would be this. We talked about that more recently, the senior center, and it's a much less expensive project to put a generator there, and Fritz was smart to catch the fact that fire station, senior center, town office, library, I don't know, is the children's center on this too? The system?
Not yet.
But at any rate, there are a number of kind of town facilities that all depend on power here to actually pump the sewage to keep that going. And if we had a long-term or even a shorter-term situation, it might be very handy to have the clerks be able to function, planning and zoning, you guys be able to function over here. At least certainly minimal.
More square footage for
for whatever.
That's a
So,
cost.
I made a few notes based on,
Great idea.
what kinds of things you guys might want to consider. I have now gone to 2 different workshops that were hosted by Chittenden County Regional Planning and one that was done by the state for what towns should think about if you know, what emergency management directors' responsibilities are and what, you know, basically teaching us, collectively teaching all of us, the kind of, they're trying to get the whole state up to speed. And so in that the checklist, one of the things they're suggesting is, okay, so we have the plan, we've done the plan, we have a local emergency operations plan, that's the shorter one, the 15-pager. So we have those things to do. We kind of have a how-to to get started is in that. And I'd be happy to get you guys copies of it. Dean has a copy of the local emergency management plan. That's basically lists of phone numbers and checklists for who we're supposed to get in touch with to the state if we're having certain types of problems, be it a big storm, an ice storm, where Junior may need some assets to help him out, perhaps. It could be a road washed out from an extreme rain event. It could be a hazardous materials spill on Route 7, a railroad track or something. I mean, there are a bunch of things that plan covers. Basically, all hazard mitigation is what the
smaller version?
The smaller version is the...
And where is that, Dean?
And we can get...
Should there be one in the clerk's office in one of the binders that they pull out pretty regularly?
We can get make copies. I mean, we have them in all fire trucks, for instance. Most of it, some of the officers have them in their phones. The short list is in all the fire trucks because it's the important phone numbers. And it basically says that if we have an incident big enough, chances are the fire department is already going to be responding to it. And then at some point along the line, between Dean, you guys, me if I'm in town, and part of my job as your current emergency management director is to actually make sure that it doesn't need me to do whatever we need to do to execute a plan if we have a bigger problem. And by that, when I talk to the folks in these workshops I've gone to, I actually have names and emails for people who, if we decide, which I think might be useful, and you guys can help me decide, yeah, that makes sense. But basically, I would like to invite some of the people I've had the class with, and they're willing to come down. You guys would set the time. You guys tell me how much time. I mean, I think an hour or plan maybe an hour to an hour and a half to hear, like, what can we all do? How do we work better together? What do we need to get? What other things do we need to consider to be ready to put the plan into action? Now realizing that hopefully we won't have to ever use this plan. But then we did have the ice storm, and we did have, the plans were simpler then. Some of these plans now that are required are an offshoot of ice storms, Irene floods. You know, California, I'm sure, is happy they have some of these plans because it talks about what happens if really bad stuff like that happens, which is not likely to happen here. So that would be a concept. And then following that one, many towns actually do a practice run. Again, keep it very short. I don't want to overburden you guys. You have busy lives, but and who can make it could make it. But the idea is, I think it would be good to, you know, step one, get a little how-to from one of these pros that teach people like ourselves what's involved. And then follow-up would be a practice, which would maybe be an hour or two, just practicing right here at the table. How would this unfold if we had to use it? That's just an idea. There's another one that I'd like, I think you guys probably won't object to, but I know they're recommending one of the checklist things for us to think about is setting up something called the Vermont Alert System. The state has it now, so for instance, if we needed to get a message out to the people in Charlotte, it would be a broader message. And I haven't talked to the individual who's in charge of this to find out, but I think it would allow us, meaning Dean, one of you, or me, to send a message out, fairly localized, to cell phones and email addresses. I don't know how they do this, but they have a way to do it. So I'm gonna try to find out more about that and come back to you guys, because I think it would make sense. Because if it was a big enough problem like in Irene, and roads were closed and certain places were flooded, there's a way we could get the word out that way. that at least would help people understand that, yes, we know about it, Junior knows about it, we're working on it. These are places to avoid. And do that when, if it's a big event, the state would be so busy that they might not be able to send a Charlotte message, but we might be able to. So that's something they were explaining to us at the session. I'm going to find out more about it and bring it back to you guys.
I think that might be where people would sign up for it and provide their email or text number.
That's
or whatever,
probably right.
And then it goes out kind of automatically.
Yeah, and so I think along with all that is going to be some PR that I'd like to coordinate with Dean and with you guys to just keep the message going out there that, you know, we've thanks to Lynn, we've done a piece in the paper about, you know, being prepared. It occurred to me when the hurricanes were happening, that if any one of those hurricanes is spun up through the Northeast, which a couple of the tracks look like they might, we could have had a lot more trouble here. And I just want to make sure that the concept is everybody's prepared to shelter in place with everything they need for 2 to 3 days. That gives people like Junior, emergency services, or big, that could be a storm, that can be a hurricane, that can be ice storm, that can be a flooding event, that can be any number of these things. But if people don't have to call 911 for those first few days just because my horses are out of water or I don't have my medicine, that is a huge help. That's been proven all over the country when they have these things. So, I mean, that's a PR thing that I think we can work on, and there's checklists, and I'll do another one with Lynn in the paper.
When I was looking at the all hazards mitigation plan, one of the things that seemed like it was missing here is there's a bunch of scenarios where the select board has to come together to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes in these natural disasters, there's enough cell phone traffic or disruption to the electric grid that we wouldn't have a way of communicating directly with each other. So it seems like it'd be good to research a shortwave radio or a walkie-talkie system for the select board to have to either communicate with emergency services or directly with each other in case cell phone and landlines go down and roads are not passable.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that in any of these big events, I mean, cell phones are the first thing to go down, usually, because they get overwhelmed, or the power's off, or like, for instance, in the ice storm, I mean, the mountain went down. I mean, WIZN was off the air, the generator was out, I went up there with the guy to try to get it going again. In Irene, Mount Philo Tower went down, so game warden, state police in this district, the state police has alternates, because they can go to other repeater sites. But for instance, agency of transportation was down for this whole district. The game wardens used that, and they were very helpful in Irene for getting to, actually game wardens were the first people to get to some of the towns because they're used to moving around and they know their way in the woods and they know alternate ways to using the roads. But the point is, and the railroad. So there were a number of agencies that were off the air that night, and a bunch of us from Charlotte got up on top of that mountain. We took a state radio tech with us in the middle of the Irene storm, and we opened the road and we got up there and we got the generator going again, so that could run the tower again, got it back on the air. So yeah, I mean, communication is a big deal. So I guess if you guys are game, I would like to reach out to the folks that might be able to come in and give us, and whoever could attend, and let you guys decide when you want to do it. I'll come back to Dean with some suggestions from these folks who do this all the time. But I know I found the couple of sessions I've been to, which were 3 hours each, I know that can be boiled down to an hour or an hour and 10 to talk about.
Maybe on an off Monday?
I'll let you guys decide when. But I think it would be helpful to all of us to say, hey, here's what we might have to do and here's why, and give us a kind of blueprint, a short course, if you will. And then I think they probably would suggest, and I would suggest that we follow it up with a little practice.
That'd be great.
It could be on a Saturday morning, could be on a whenever you guys want to do it. But I think at some point it would be great to know, hey, here's what we would have to do if we really had to do it.
Sounds good.
And in the meantime, Fritz, you let me know what I can do to help you. It sounds like you're on your way to figuring out the generator piece for these 2 buildings, and then we'll figure out, once we have those prices, that's the first step to being able to see about grant funding.
Are these generators you're thinking about mobile? I mean, so they can be kept out of the rain or stored
They're
or
boxes
maintenance?
that are meant to be out in the weather. Freezing, rain, whatever. They're self-contained. They're like, they look about like an air conditioning unit. They're
Yep.
Automatic startup or are they?
automatic start.
Yep, they have automatic start.
And hooked up to a propane tank usually?
Or they
Propane
could
or
have their
diesel.
own diesel tank built right underneath them. A lot of them are that way. Like in Shelburne, the sewer plants, all the sewer manholes have them. The tank is right underneath in the box.
Downside of diesels, it gels when it gets really cold.
Yeah, but it's cut.
So it's gotta be below the
It's just
frost
cut
line?
with kerosene.
Yeah.
So they do a cut fuel.
It's supposed to.
But Shelburne, that's a pretty normal thing, like I said, all the sewer manholes.
I have one in my house that's propane powered and I've never had any problem with it starting. I have had problems with diesel
Yeah, the
motors.
propane ones are ideal, but if you don't know, I don't know if the senior center already has a propane tank. I don't know if they do.
I don't know.
They have
do.
gas.
Well, they must for their
Their
savings
stoves are
stoves.
gas.
So they do have a propane.
Yes.
But the deal is then you have to make sure they're checked and topped off more frequently than normal, so
It's probably
not on the
big
bottom end
enough.
of your tank when the power goes out.
So, but Fritz knows all that, so he's on top of it. For this building, I don't know what we do over here, because you don't have propane.
Yeah, well, I think even a separate tank is not a bad idea, because once, like I said, if you're using it for other stuff and you're at the day before they're supposed to show up and your power's out for a week, I mean, I have them come by my house every 2 weeks instead of once a month in the winter,
Yeah.
much to their chagrin.
Yeah, right.
I don't care.
Yeah, because they don't put any in when you're not using it.
Just keep it above 70%, because it runs for some, when the generator goes on, it sucks a fair amount of propane.
Yeah.
1,000 gallons runs my house for about 5 days. So,
Okay. Anything else you're thinking of right now? I mean, that's kind of what we've been told with these sessions, that's the checklist, so.
Is the fire and rescue building have its own generator?
It does.
It does.
When we did the renovation of the building, we actually put it inside the building, so we didn't have the low temperature. No, it's diesel fuel, and it runs off a tank that we have there
Oh, you started.
every week.
They come with a
Automatic.
timer, they
It's on an
start
automatic
themselves.
timer.
Mine's going to stay at 4 o'clock if you want to come by and listen.
Yeah, right. We want to make sure we hear it, so we set it while
Don't
we're
schedule
there.
for times when nobody's there, because you don't, doesn't work.
Right. And we have a service contract. If you guys did one here or there, I assume maybe expand that service contract. The same company's coming in. Shelburne put theirs out to bid for all their different generators, and we would do the same, I think. But we gotta get there first. Yeah. Having the price is the first step.
Well, thanks for coming in and.
You're welcome,
yeah, keep us-
anytime.
Keep us posted and
Sure.
just give us some alternatives.
Yep.
Like you say, an off Monday might be good.
I'll work with Dean on that
Sure.
and see when it works for you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any of you I know, Carrie, you were over there. You see the helicopter out here on your lawn?
Oh, my son and wife
That was pretty
made it.
impressive,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
he loved it.
Oh my gosh.
I thought the whole entire day was great.
Well, that's
I
Kevin and
enjoyed
Rob, Dick,
every
those guys
single
worked on
minute
that,
of
I
it.
think, you know, Dick and Kevin, I mean, Rob and Kevin especially, make
Yeah.
that all come together.
Yeah.
But
we
next
missed
year,
the-
people, the word's out. If we do that again, I assume we'll have even more people. I
Yeah.
hope.
Oh, yeah.
It was
And
pretty good, pretty well attended, we wanted the families and the kids.
You said there was about 120 people.
There was a lot to do that day.
And I was
but-
glad we had the troopers there, the game
Oh, it was
wardens.
great.
It was great, and
It
then
was
Shelburne
great.
Fire folks, some Shelburne Rescue folks. It was great, I think.
We got here, Tristan and I, just minutes after the helicopter landed, but we were able to see it
And get a
take
tour
off,
inside.
so, absolutely. And we were here for 3 hours, just because I couldn't get out of the house sooner.
Oh.
But I would have enjoyed all 4 hours if I had been here. And I was so impressed when I went out back and I could see what the lay of the day's activities was gonna be, and I just thought that's a keeper
It was
event.
great. That's Rob and Kevin.
Yeah, it was really, really great.
Behind making that happen.
Yeah, Tristan, absolutely, the children that listened to all the different demonstrations, you could see everybody was
Wasn't it great? I mean, you
really
had
intense.
women troopers.
That
you had women
K-9 unit
helicopter
was
pilot,
so
you
impressive.
had
We
women
could
game
have,
warden.
Yes, we could
I
have
mean, that was,
talked.
I'm not saying that should be an exception, just great that that was
Oh,
all
it was
part
really
of it.
for, yep, the young girls. And now I don't think the game wardens really got an opportunity to talk.
No, and I don't.
Because
think
there's
that they-
so much to
no,
do.
I was trying
But-
to encourage them.
Oh.
They mostly didn't really
That's-
want to. They're
oh.
happy to be there.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted them to say
Yeah.
whatever they wanted to say.
Yeah,
And we'll get them
Yeah.
more involved next time, because they're into rabies and
yeah, I know.
rabies prevention, rabies education, what to do if you see an animal doing something crazy. I mean, there's some things I think they could have done some show and tell too.
Yeah, and the other part by the building where you had the,
Well, the practice thing for the
practice
kids. Oh, and then
area.
the CPR.
Well, but
Yeah.
adults were doing
For
it.
CPR.
Well, that LaBerge guy, he was like, think of it as staying alive, you know, and he was teaching. But it was very good. And Jon Snow was really hilarious doing the obstacle
With
course
teddy
for the
bear
kids.
and the hose and stuff.
Because he was saying, we like to pull them by the ears, so pull them by the ears, which was really,
It was a
like
teddy
kidding,
bear.
but
Teddy bear drag.
there was a couple of other things that he said was just really comical to make the kids, listen even more to what he was saying. Yeah, I walked away from there going, well, that was a really great community event. I like seeing the new families in town.
Yeah,
and
if we can get some
just
members
get
out
the
of
word
it,
out a little bit.
that's a bonus.
more.
If we can get the next generation of kids involved, that's another bonus.
You had quite a few of the right age, 8, 10, 12. And I do want to say that at one point, Tristan and some of them were playing in the ambulance out front when most people were out back. He comes back, he goes, man, I really feel like there should be an adult out there. And so would you come out? And so I did. And, I thought, well, okay, kids and adults here now. And so they said, okay, whatever. But yesterday I asked him, why did you ask me? Why did you think that an adult needed to? Because it seemed like it was a law that,
Oh.
if we are in this type of thing, there really should be an
Well,
adult.
we were trying to have coverage out there the whole time. I kept running back and forth to make sure if there was anybody there, that there was.
That was really, I thought that was really good because he knew how important that piece of equipment was, and he knew that there was a bunch of kids that were, there's probably four in there, 5,
Yeah.
but it's great. So thank you very
Well,
much. I
that's
thought it
great.
was fabulous.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
have a good night.
That's what I was gonna, for our updates, I was just gonna say how much fun I thought the entire day was, and how well it was set up, thoughtful. A lot of smiling faces. It was great.
You want to do
A
the,
couple pregnant mothers chasing their little 2-year-olds around, but
you want to do the scheduling updates, Dean? Your
Sure, just the 2 regular meetings in December. First one
We have
is,
in November, you got that as,
November would just be, are we talking the 8:30 item?
I won't be here on the 13th.
We have the draft agenda also.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You put it out. So we'll have a quorum here the 13th?
what happened?
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
What was that?
I'm all right. Just had a sudden vertigo attack.
Oh,
Okay.
You okay? You need water or something?
No, I'm gonna just sit for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Wow.
You want Chris to come back?
I've never had that before. That was crazy.
wow.
All right, carry on scheduling.
Maybe before he goes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. All right.
Okay. We're gonna have a quorum on the 13th. I won't be here. Is everybody good with that? Leaving it as scheduled? November 13th? So that's good? Okay.
I'd like to add to that a municipal infrastructure development policy.
Okay.
I don't think we would need long on it, but I'd also like you to have a look at it.
Okay. Have we looked at this before?
Yeah,
This is the municipal one that you talked
presented
about?
kind of a draft concept and
Oh, the
then,
municipal what you call the
of
municipal
the policy.
Okay.
And then I have now for the select board update, a draft of the policy.
Okay.
With everyone's feedback. I think Frank gave me some feedback and
Okay. I
Fritz
haven't
gave me
looked
some feedback.
And what do you call it? Is it a municipal policy or?
Municipal infrastructure development policy.
Where did they see it? I didn't see it. Was I
No,
supposed to
I have
see
it here for the update.
Oh, but they,
Well, it was
He read something
3
real
meetings
funny.
ago.
oh, okay.
I brought, and
Oh,
you were
yes,
here.
yes.
Yep.
Now I
And
remember.
got some feedback about taking a first crack at the policy.
So you want to add that when?
Yeah, to the 13th.
Okay.
Although, does it make more sense to save it until all 5 of us will be
Yeah,
here?
I think it'd be better
So
because
we
it's
don't
going
have
to
to
affect
rehash
the way
it.
we operate.
Yeah.
So I would make it on the
27th.
27th,
And I'll pass. At
yes.
select board updates, we can talk about it a little and
Okay.
everyone can take it home and we
You
can.
can always send it out as information only.
Yeah, and even at the updates, we don't have to make any decisions. We can just look at it. So it looks like there's an hour and 15 minutes for the 3 budget presentations. Maybe we could slip it in there.
This is what date, the 27th?
27th, yeah. Like maybe have it at 8:50.
Mary tends to go line for line, so that'd probably take that much time.
Yeah,
Charlotte, Fire and Rescue, we always back and forth on that. Those probably will take that, I have a feeling those will take that time up, because it's a lot of money with the Fire and Rescue, Town Clerk, Library.
When do we do the, our budget, the building maintenance and that kind of thing? Because I know last year we talked about putting a placeholder in for the roof and it never made it.
I don't know, we can ask Dean what he's got in mind. Dean, we're talking about schedule?
Yep.
So we wanted to add for November 27th, Matt wants, can talk about under updates in a minute, municipal infrastructure policy.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be here the 13th, thinking all 5 of us ought to be here. So that's for the 27th.
How much time do you think? What do you want?
I think 15 minutes, so I'm looking at it, I just kind of did a draft insertion. If we had it at 7:15
Okay,
to 7:30,
okay.
then we could change the budget presentations to
Yeah.
7:45,
Okay.
and the meeting would get out at 9:15 at the latest. But then we'd kind of be fresh for the budget presentations to kind of look at it with a sharp eye.
And your point of bringing up the 11th and the 18th, oh, that's because Christmas is the next,
Well, Christmas would be the fourth Monday is the 25th. So if you would want to, have a meeting on 2 meetings in December, I guess what would be the date of the second meeting? The 18th would work, or?
yeah, I mean, we wrapping everything up for the first round by when?
Well, CVFRS will be in the 27th. The select board budget will probably be ready, we're discussing it on the 11th. So by the 11th, or perhaps the second meeting in December would be the whole budget.
At the 18th, so that, as long as you get it wrapped up, that would probably work, because we'll be doing a lot of trade-offs, challenges. Okay,
So the 18th works for everyone?
sounds like it.
Yep.
Okay.
So
And you'll warn this meeting for Monday
Yes.
at 4:30 then?
Yep.
Good. Okay, so now we're at updates. You want to say some more, Carrie, or?
oh, no, I guess not really. I just
Okay.
commendable what the fire and rescue did.
Okay. One more? So you guys, okay.
just kind of put together our ideas. with a standardized process with a town policy that people would know how to use and people would know how to access. So town projects didn't become a surprise for people, and people on committees, commissions, and boards would have a process to follow, so they didn't have to make an ad hoc process each time there's an initiative to do something in town, whether it be an addition to a town building,
Or a grant.
a grant proposal, or a new, the trail development, which prompted the application to a grant. And the other goal was to have a policy that creates a process that's timely and doesn't slow down initiatives that people want to engage in. So I can go through it. Do people want a second to read it and ask questions? Kind of idea is to have consecutive select board meetings.
Keep it fresh.
Yep, day 0. Number 2 would be 2 weeks later, day 14. Number 3 would be on day 28. And on day 42, so basically within 6 weeks, any town development initiative could kind of have the ball rolling, and all interested parties would know about it and could be included in the discussions and the process. And these would all be occurring at select board meetings rather than in committee meetings, so that the select board is aware of development projects as they're coming through the pipeline, rather than being surprised as well.
Well, and then with VCAM here, even a broader group of people could know about it from the start.
The other thing that this does is it dovetails 2 other priorities. I think is one was part of the feedback that I received at the end on the second page, that all projects will adhere to the town of Charlotte purchasing policy. So it brings in line purchasing and development. And if a project is estimated to cost more than $50,000, that's in the MOA with fire and rescue, brings it into the town's own development aspirations. The select board will prepare a separate article to be presented for a town vote at town meeting or a special meeting, if the select board wants to call a special meeting for a vote.
It's 50,000, what happens if it was
If it's under $50,000, it's still within
Discretion.
it's within the purchasing policy. So it would still trigger the bidding process, which
Well,
is
I'm worried
also,
about, let's say it was a grant, that example we had, and we needed another 40,000 to support a grant that, a trails grant that, would you do that? You go through this process, wouldn't you want to have a special meeting?
well, maybe I should define cost to be project cost, because even though it's costing the town 40,000, the project is $500,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that would clear that up. So I'll put that in there. And really, the idea is at the first meeting, the people who want to develop something would present that, and the select board would come up with a public notice that would allow anyone in town to be aware that something is coming up. At the second meeting, they could approve the notice, and people would have, citizens and boards and commissions would have an opportunity to attend that meeting and offer any amendments or input.
Is that considered the cycle of the news?
Yes, well, I think it would, because now that's a 30-day period, basically, before the third select board meeting. So it should, even for biweekly publications, should be able to get one in there. And then the third select board meeting, the select board will design the project-specific development process, which will include the appointment of 3 appointments. The official development party, so in the case of a grant application for a trail, that would be the Trails Committee probably. A project manager, which seems like it would be the chair of that committee. And then those who would be granted development party status, which to me in this would be the select board, the Conservation Commission, I would think the Planning Commission, and
All of them really, right? Energy, if it was a
well, if they
building
if they
or something?
came in, the, yeah, it
Right,
depends
at
on
that
which
time,
project.
sure.
But I was just kind of using an example, and then we would vote on that. So if groups are granted development party status, that means for the life of the project, they would get CC'd on any meetings, any site visits, and they wouldn't have to kind of think about, is something happening without us knowing about it or having, party to the development. And then at the fourth select board meeting, they would come back with a proposed timeline and process for that development. And then the select board would understand kind of, okay, is this going to be a 6-month process? Is this going to be a year-long process? Sometimes things have to go to architects and then to engineers and then get state approval. But it would be on our radar. The town administrator would be able to kind of look forward, knowing kind of how it might fit into future select board agendas.
I got a couple of questions as how this is used right in your very first paragraph.
Yeah.
So town buildings, a new roof, that kind of stuff really tends to go through, a budget process. I'm looking for examples in my mind of when this would apply that are short-term. And the one we had was that stimulated this was a grant for a trail. Are there other examples that you see?
The senior center edition, the library edition.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think the library would want to work quite as quickly as you're proposing here. In other words.
Well, the timeline, so in 4, that timeline could be 2 years.
Okay.
But the announcement of a development project should take no more than 6 weeks for everyone in town to know.
Okay.
This is something that the town, some body in the town would like to
Because the library might take
develop.
2 years, but
Yeah.
then they talk about it, come up with different options, talk about fundraising, how much does the town pay, or any, it's going to be a lengthy process.
Yeah.
And we're about to hear about that.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, when you first started describing it, you described the timeline of the different meetings, and I kind of missed it. What is there?
Well, it's in the consecutive meetings.
Oh, okay.
So the first select board meeting is day 0. The second would be day 14,
Is that?
28, 42.
Oh, just okay.
Yeah, regularly scheduled meeting. I think that gives ample amount of time for cross conversations, cross pollination to happen. Committees will be meeting at least once. If they have regularly monthly scheduled meetings, that would give them an opportunity to have it on their agendas to see if they want development party status. And yet, I think 6 weeks is kind of a truncated enough amount of time. It shouldn't hold up any important project, that's of a large scale.
Good.
One comment on, as far as easements, some easements may be donated, but it seems like, is this anticipating like paying for easements?
Yeah, I guess easement procurement, maybe I should write.
Okay.
All right, would you just say easements sometimes are donated?
Yeah, which wouldn't apply. But this would be if someone in town wanted to procure an easement, let's say, it'd have to be over $50,000 for a town vote, but I guess there is no minimum in here. I don't know, should there be?
To go through this?
A trigger to start this
I
process?
don't think so. I think some projects want to have don't want to be relegated to indefinite, regardless of their cost. If you're putting up a $5,000 project, you don't want to just drag on forever. So.
Right. And I guess that maybe not having that creates the question mark where people will ask, hey,
Yeah.
you know, committee says, hey, should we be using the municipal infrastructure development policy on this? And then we can kind of decide there at that meeting if they come to us. And we have, you know, it looks like until November 27th, this would be on the agenda to maybe approve or edit and approve. So if people have comments or changes,
Do we have a format we want to use that gets signed off, you know, town policy format?
Sure, add the lines to it, the
okay.
bottom for signature.
Yeah, I'll look at, yep.
Yeah. Purchasing policy or.
Yep.
Date it.
And as I
Effective
receive,
date.
yeah, and as I receive comments from people, if there are any more, you know, in the next month, I can have a running list of those comments. So at the next meeting, we could go through them. I don't know if anyone else had comments or input.
Well, I stayed for this, and in particular, the Conservation Commission has tended to try to monitor the Planning Commission and the Selectboard, but not the Trails Committee. And in the recent interaction with the Trails Committee, we felt like we didn't get really up to snuff until the end of all of this has happened. And this seems to address that and give us the opportunity to do what we wanted and what we have talked with the Trails Committee about, is that to be, we would have asked to be a development partner, you know, in that, and then we become part of the decision-making process. So this seems to address our concerns.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice job.
Updates, I've got a couple here. As you all, I believe you know that we received a letter that we did not receive the grant for the trail for that portion from Mount Philo State Park down to the Mac intersection of State Park Road. So Carrie, you asked for a write-up, and the fellow who is in charge of this is John Kaplan, who's the son of the Kaplans that live out near you.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
I wondered about that.
And
I didn't ask.
he
That's funny.
put a write-up for us, and we had a planned phone call. Everybody was invited. Lori, Margaret, Dean, and myself were on the phone call. He went through our application and gave us some ideas how to make ours stronger. They had $9 million worth of grants, requests. They had $3 million that they approved. He told us where we needed a phase two, we need to have a stronger needs statement. Easements beforehand are helpful. Maps included on the grant to provide better designation for the approvers to look at. Right-of-way costs, if you don't get the grant, what it would cost, should be included. Need a case for safety. If you're on State Park Road, the cars are going by about 40 miles per hour. And if you're right on the road there, it is we tried it because I wanted to go out to the tunnel. And, you know, if you have a dog and a couple of people, it's whipping pretty fast. So we need to emphasize safety. One of the folks that was in our meeting that was against this wrote a letter to the V-Trans, which we didn't know about, objecting to what we were doing, which is in their folder. Who will be served by the project. We were in the bottom 50% of applications of what they considered. They have a point system. 65 points is max. if you're a village designation, you get 5 points out of the 65, which we haven't finalized that yet, but I think we need to. Our costs were okay.
Did they say how many projects received the 3 million?
I don't know.
I don't have that note, but notionally, well, I don't know if you can say this or not, only 1/3 of 9 million worth of requests, ours was 650, some smaller, some large. I think they talk about a Shelburne one that was pretty large, or maybe a previous year, the way the Shelburne has, if you veer off after you go through Shelburne and you cut off, they have a bunch of paths right on the edge of the road there. Goes up to Quiniesca Golf Course. I don't know if you've seen
the
that.
La
Those-
Platte River.
Yeah, pretty nice
nature
trails in there. So he wasn't concerned about the size. It's just the other factors that build up, and everybody scored it, or these points that total 65. So it was a good debrief, I think. Mark, and then it comes up again next year, and we're smarter. And, you know, we'll go through this process that you just talked about. Do we apply again and see what people's comments are?
Yeah, I think with the Conservation Commission's input in the process, the kind of the citing of the trail map that John Kaplan said would be more important to have. We kind of had a pretty vague target of what we wanted the trail to look like in the application. I think with a year of discussions, we could probably get a clearer
He
picture.
knew all our roads, and he told me his name. I said, are you related to the Kaplans or on the Horseman? Oh, yeah, I'm their son. Oh, that's how you know, you grew up here.
Small world.
Yes.
I wondered, as John was talking, whether there might also be a appropriateness to, instead of trying, I mean, we certainly could try for the same grant again, but consider downsizing the trail. And because I think we sort of got stuck a little bit in, because we're applying for this particular grant, it has certain specifications of width and all that. And if we do it differently, maybe we can make a smaller trail that fits better, makes conservation happy, makes trails happy, and maybe costs less.
Right, we talked about that. And actually, I think Margaret may have said she might talk to Junior. Like, if you put a trail on the north side of that road that's of the quality of the trails we have through co-housing, rather than a $650,000 trail, if Junior were to give us a quote to do that, what would that be? And we were thinking it might even be less than the contribution you have to make for the more formal trail.
I think the outlier was the wetland.
Right. So it's
Because
about,
I got a couple of prices from local contractors on the gravel, and that's a reasonable thing to estimate, how and where you cross the wetland could be hundreds of % different in cost. You know, if you find a way to do it and find a person that has the right equipment to drive little piles for a 6-foot wide bridge, but it won't hold so much, you might be cheap, but then you go to something that's just a little bit bigger, and then its cost can. So I think at one of the meetings said, before we jump in with 2 feet again, we really need to nail down what is it A&R, DNR?
A&R,
A&R.
DEC.
DEC, what they want, because that's the cost that's the wild card in the whole formula.
Yeah, after you said that, I did contact Lucy from Du Bois and King, and she said, actually, the report that she gave us was actually considered a draft. She has still been working on it, although she's not charging anymore, to get A&R's comments into it and provide a possible approach to addressing their concerns. I did, by the way, ask John Kaplan. It seemed like this process is very tight as far as the turnaround of the report and the grant application. He said that's fairly typical. It's there isn't much time. It's expected that basically the draft report will be available for the grant application, but she actually is going to provide a final report that will include A&R's recommendations.
Lucy is.
Yes.
The last letter was they wanted to, their guidelines was they wanted to comment on whatever we came up with.
We'll see what she comes up with. It should be available in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We're still gonna have those utility poles though, pardon me. I went by there the other day, it just stuck right out at me.
Well,
Also, the neighbor just east of the Melissa and Trevor Mack trails put a fence up that's now within the easement allotment.
I think it's right at the edge of the easement, I think. I haven't measured it, but there was only, on that side,
oh, I know what you mean, on the road, State Park Road and Trevor Mack Trail.
Yeah, just north
I
of
think you
State
can
Park.
squeak through there,
yeah.
but poles and big trees, utility poles and big trees are things that have to be looked at.
Right.
And then the drop-off where the wetland is, it's right at the edge of the road. I mean, they had a landslide on Mount Philo on the paved road, and they were able to fill that in so easily. I thought they'd have to put these big timbers into the side of the hill and fill it and build it up. But they did it rather simply, and I don't know if...
They probably didn't use V-Trans spec.
Huh? They used a V-Trans.
Were they working in a wetland?
No, it wasn't a wetland.
It wasn't a wetland, and who's gonna complain about the state doing state stuff on state property?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so that's that story. TDI, the project of the cable, like utility cable under the lake. They requested, we have our legal team who is in the contingency phase. In other words, their fee is a contingency if the towns that are looking for property tax payment, they get a portion of that. So they're not spending town money, they're spending their own money. And they met with representatives of each of the towns. I was for Charlotte. And then we went to the law firm who submitted the bid. TDI New England submitted a bid, and Josh Bagnato is the project development person. He lives in Charlotte. And so this team of about 10 towns representative and 2 of the attorneys on our side went down to their office, they're just down College Street, and he gave a presentation, the fact that TDI's bid went in, along with, I think, 2 or 3 other bids, maybe more than that. 7 proposals went in. TDI feels very good about theirs. They've done a lot with the state legislature. They've made a lot of agreements to clean up Lake Champlain on a macro level from their income from the electric utility. And so much is going to go to clean up the lake. Some of them is going to be for grants that towns can go after, but they're not looking at paying a property tax to individual towns. So they went to the legislature to the macro. In other words, over 10 years, they have $500 million that they're going to apply to clean up Lake Champlain. But they did not put in money for the town of Charlotte for X amount for property tax. So that's the way TDI is going. They don't want to negotiate with us. They're very firm. Their budget's in, their bid's in. So the attorneys which are kind of confidential, are looking at ways to be successful for the towns where the cable is going underwater in our front yard. So really nothing more to say because they're negotiating, but it was an interesting process. I tell you, TDI they're doing a good job. They went to the state legislature, they got their permits, they're really ready to go. And there'll be some more requests from each of the town on the process and what they recommend our support, not financial, but a vote for them to proceed in certain directions. And so you'll be hearing from us.
Taxes are forever.
Right.
Then, all of their money they spend, they want to have an end date. So at a certain point in time, they know what's left is profit.
The other thing that's been active in the last few days is the Lot 128, Thompson's Point. Just trying to get that resolved, you know, the dilapidated building, Lot 127, 128. Fritz has been working it. I sat in on so it was a phone call, trying to see if we can get this, all the parties agree, but now we have to have the leases meet the requirements of our zoning and planning. Have the ability to take down the dilapidated building. So I'm hopeful, I think Fritz, you're hopeful that we can get some legalese that allows these leases to be properly modified, keep it simple.
So,
We tried to stir the pot a bit with our lawyers because it's been around a while. Those are my updates. Did I miss anything that we wanted to talk about?
my only one was the generator thing, and then also whenever we get around to the select board budget, I want to keep a placeholder for the roof for a few years. We should put some money into it because it's
This roof?
this roof. The shingles are brittle where you go to touch them and they break instead of bend, so they're on their way out. Be good not to have a $40,000 or $50,000 surprise.
Anything you want to say about the rugs? I'm forgetting where that stands.
The carpet,
Carpet.
staff, town clerk, assistant town clerk, and Lister have come up with a preferred pattern. If you'd like to see it, I can show it to you. If using that pattern, the lowest cost would be using New England floor covering. I've asked them also for a price for what's called a walk-off carpet, which is that part right when you first come in, and that might be a different pattern that's offered. So once I get that, then we'll have a final quote for approval. Do you want to see the?
Is your sense it's in the budget that we set aside? Or?
It is. Oh, it's definitely. Yep.
What was the budget we set aside?
We put about 22,000.
22,000?
Yeah.
Do you have the samples?
I do.
Yeah, I think so.
Right now?
Sure.
Okay.
Bring them.
At this point, give me the one that's most favored, if that's it.
Sure.
Can we see the least favorite too?
The only option is the one that people that live in here approve, work in here approve.
I was gonna say, if the three of them agreed, then it
They're
must
happy,
be-
I'm gonna be happy.
I agree.
I'll give you those. This is.
Put them on the chair, we can see all that.
This was like the brown, but I think people thought the whole
They showed too much.
town office and brown would be a little bit too much.
So the one on the left is
Sure,
preferred?
it's mine.
It is. I'll get the others.
So they're gonna come in a square or something?
They do. They're replaceable if you guys
That's great.
stain on one.
Easier to put in, you don't have to have it. You can take half the furniture in the room, put it on one side, do the carpet, and then flip the furniture over, as opposed to like those filing cabinets, having to move everything out of the room to roll the
Right.
carpet product down.
Ooh, I almost said pumpkin orange would be on the list.
So what-
People like that one, but
Oh,
they thought
man.
20 years of the whole place and that would be a little bit too.
So it's gotta be compatible with the yellow walls too, or white and yellow.
Aye.
Thank you. So right there, number 2 is preferred.
Yeah.
What's next, second choice?
There isn't.
That is.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
And then the walk off, maybe in a solid.
So do we have to approve this thing when you get it all done then? Is that that's in the budget?
Sure, I mean, if you have a preference at this point, that's
I agree with the people that are working here.
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, no.
We agree to concur.
Yes.
probably smart.
We could put it to a town vote.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we have
It's a process, let's see.
We have one more item on the agenda, we left it for the end. We did all the performance reviews of our employees. And everybody was given the opportunity to, so the employee did a self-evaluation, then the immediate supervisor did a one-on-one, and then we had a group. So we did that with Dean, Joe, Daryl. You did Nicole, so I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
So you did that one. So they were all signed off as in the group, and for Dean, it was Frank, you, Carrie, and me, and you haven't signed it yet, Carrie, you want to, I guess, had a question or two. And we haven't seen Nicole's, so.
I haven't seen Daryl's or Joe. It wasn't really a question on just, Dean's. It really was a time when we would all come together and see all of the reviews in one shot so that we're all on the same page. I don't know what Nicole said. I don't know what Joe said. And Fritz doesn't typically like to be part of that early process, but you said you wanted to be.
I read them
at
all,
this.
and, there's probably things that I might say differently, but I wasn't too moved to make any changes. Maybe, if not this time, certainly next time, we should have a little more clear process. I was thinking that's what we were gonna do once this was all done. We had all of them be done, we'd sit down in an executive session and just make sure that those who did not participate in the other ones didn't have any comments.
We can still do that.
So,
No, it's like,
What do you think we'd need to carve out? An hour, hour and a half?
well, I think if we've all read them ahead of time, we can,
20 minutes.
yeah,
Hour.
rip through them.
Oh, great.
But
So what's your pleasure?
at this point, I'll defer to the group. Like I said, there was nothing in there that
Have you turned in Nicole's?
No, but I can, and
Okay.
yeah, this week.
I thought was earth-shaking and needed to change.
Do you want to put that on the November 13th agenda at 6:15 or 6 o'clock, or?
Oh, I just assume be here for that one.
Oh,
Just
that's
make
true.
sure there's no disruption or, I sort of don't want to, from my point of view, don't want to reinvent the wheel. We did go through a process, but to your point, not everybody's seen them all. I would say, when we could do it if you wanted to, this 4:30 Monday, is that, and get it out of the way? We're meeting 4:30 Monday to do the Palmer. Do you want to add that to that, or do you want to make it toward the end of November?
As long as it's done by 5:30.
Well, maybe that squeezes you too much. Then do it the 27th of November.
Yeah, it starts at 6:30, so we could start at 6.
Okay, so we want to do it in November?
Sure.
27.
So everybody try to read it. So everybody has, I think we all have the copies.
We can just
Yeah.
make notes and
Yeah.
speak and get it done quickly.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I'm moving to adjourn.
Don't forget the warrants, guys. We didn't have a lot of select board people here
Yeah.
last week. Okay, there was a motion to adjourn, second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.